Good morning. I think this is it. Pilates. Good morning, Rosie. I'm so excited because I think we haven't had a live Pilates for ages. So thanks for bearing with me and let's get started, shall we? I've got my mat. I've got today a towel to support the back or the front of my head or the side, depending on what we're doing. I've also got a stretchy band. I'm always putting a stretchy band in. I don't always use it, as you know. So it's there just in case, but don't panic if you haven't got one, and we can use your towel as well. So how are we feeling? Make sure you're not feeling poorly before embarking on this Pilates journey. If you are, turn me off and come back to me when you're better. But otherwise, just make sure you've got a nice safe space. I tend to do this session with no shoes on, and generally that's what we tend to do. But if you have to have something, make sure it's quite light and not too tight around your feet. So we're going to think about our warm-up and our start. So the old ABC, the alignment, how we stand, how we lie, and our breathing. And also we're going to do a little bit on that centering. So just really engaging with these core muscles of the pelvic floor and the sort of deep muscles that support the back and the abdominals. So let's have, not forgetting the shoulders, let's have a little think about how we're standing. We're just going to take a comfortable position and we're just going to get this blood flow moving a little bit. So we're just going to take a little bit of arm movement here. And while we're doing this, just depending on how your morning's been so far, you might be thinking, so just take a moment to think about how you're feeling. If you're just waking up, take a moment to think about this breath in and also really focus on trying to breathe out through that mouth. We're going to make these movements just a little bit bigger, but listen to your shoulders. If they don't like it, stay with the smaller movements. Good. Okay, I'm just going to take one more and then I'm just going to shake these arms out a little bit. Just going to move these feet a little bit. I'm going to take them a nice comfortable distance apart because we're going to take a little movement with these arms now. Now see, I'm just turning through these hips. This little, I've forgotten what I call it, but spine swing, I think. You can see my opposite heels moving away from the floor. So this is a really nice way just to take any tension out of the shoulders. And again, just to bring ourselves into the body. Because for the next hour, we're going to think only about us, about our movements. You might get distracted, but the nice thing about this is we're just going to come back to you. Okay, let's just bring it back. Let those arms find their way home. And then I'm going to make sure my feet are underneath my hips, about hip width apart. I'm going to notice where those toes are. And then I'm just going to take that weight from the heels into the balls of the feet. It can be a smaller movement, it can be a bigger movement, but just from the heels through to the balls of the feet. I'll just show you from this angle what I'm doing here. Really small movement. And then I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. So I'm going to stop raising my heels. I'm going to see if I can let my toes relax, and I'm going to make those movements smaller and smaller till we arrive with our weight centered through these feet. Good. And then we're going to think about a little squeeze of those shoulders up to the ears. Breathe in, and as you breathe out, let those shoulders go. Good. So this is a shoulder warm-up, but we're thinking about using it as a breathing warm-up and also as a way of dispersing tension in those shoulders. Let's try that one more time, shall we? Tension, and as you just push that breath out through the mouth, allow those shoulders to fall. How far will they go? A little bit further than maybe we thought. I'm going to do one more. Come on, one more for luck. And just think about those shoulder blades. Imagine them sliding down your back, all the way down to that soft V at the base of the spine. And then we're just going to think about shaking those feet out a little bit. Shake those feet out a little bit. Good. Okay, so we've got those shoulders nice and relaxed. We're going to think about this pelvis next. So we're looking straight ahead, and we're just going to take that little rocking movement. So we're going to exaggerate that tilt forwards. Remember that bucket of water? We're tipping butter out of the forward. We're not tipping butter anyway. We're tipping water out of the front of the bucket. You'll notice that little arch at the base of the back when you do that. Don't overdo it. And then when we tip water out of the back of the bucket, this back flattens out. So I'm going to move my hands so you can actually see if you've not done this before. Good. So we're tipping water out to the back and the front, and like we did with the feet, looking straight ahead, we're going to make those tipping movements smaller and smaller till we arrive at that midpoint where the water is flat and we have that natural curve at the base of the spine, and this is our neutral spine. And we'll be finding this in all positions, floor, kneeling, everywhere. So just think about how it feels. Notice this space between the ribs. Oh, it's going to be like this morning. The ribs and the pelvis. And we're just going to try and maintain that space. We're going to try and open out those shoulders and just allow the space at the front of the shoulders to match the space at the back of the shoulders. So often tends to be a bit smaller. So again, this is where we just draw the shoulder blades together and gently down. But try not to try too hard. Now, we're going to think about tightening this belt, this big corset-like belt around that waist. You can bring in a little bit of pelvic floor if you like, just gently drawing that pubic bone up. So it's almost a triangle, drawing to these points in the middle. And then we're going to think about just lifting that rib cage out of the hips. And then we're going to come all the way back. So let's think about this breathing now. As we breathe in, we're preparing. And as we start to move, we're breathing out. So think about most of the time, we're breathing out as we move away from center and breathing in as we return to center when we're back at center. So this one, really nice and easy. So imagine you're looking out onto the horizon and there's something that's caught your eye and you're moving, shoulders relaxed. At the same time, you're still keeping that eye on the horizon. So we're not looking at where the hand's going. We're just keeping that chin drawn to the back of the neck. And then we're going to come all the way up. Good. Now we're going to roll these shoulders. We're going to just take a small knee bend. Just when you bend those knees, make sure the heels are down and that we're bending the knees in line with that second toe. Breathing in, breathing out. And then we're just going to relax those shoulders down. We're going to hold that neutral spine. We're going to come into our arm floats. So leading with that thumb. Just gradually finding that range. So we're moving from the shoulder. Think about that thumb leading, not bending the elbow. And we're just drawing that shoulder blade down the back, all the way down as this arm rises. And we're using that repetition rather than force to enable the progression of that range. And then we'll try the same on the other side. So we're going to move to your left. And again, we're breathing out, almost breathing out into that thumb, into those fingers, breathing in. And as we breathe in on that way back down, imagine breathing in to the sides of those ribs, almost breathing into your armpits, breathing into those shoulder blades. Good. Not worrying about how far you go, just thinking about where your range is, looking out onto that horizon, and then coming back down. And we're going to think about lifting those heels gently off the floor. And we're going to breathe out. And we're going to slowly lower. We're going to breathe in. Good. And again, we're lifting up, looking straight ahead. And bringing it back down. So we're going to think about flow. Think about that movement of a swan. Think about how they gracefully glide. But underneath that water, you've got that pedaling, that work going on that you can't really see above the surface. So think about the work that's going on in these core muscles as that under the water movement, and everything else today is going to flow. Now let's think about breathing in, opening out this chest and breathing out. Good. And as you breathe out, we can just soften those knees slightly. We're breathing in. Good. I'm going to hit the wall, so I'm turning back to you. And we're breathing out. Good. Just feeling that lovely opening in that chest, the front of the shoulders, drawing those shoulder blades together. Nice long spine. Try not to stick that chin forwards as we open. And then we're going to bring those arms down. Bring those arms down. Now with those feet hip width apart, we're going to just take a mini movement, mini squat movement. Okay, can be tiny. The only purpose of this is to get that blood flowing through the legs. It doesn't have to be really big. Make sure those knees are in alignment. Good. And then we're just going to take 2 more. You might find you can go a little bit lower with each one. You might not feel comfortable. And then a bound back to that little raise and flow it down. Good. So we're breathing out on that way back down. Breathing in. And bring it back down. Good. So let's see if we can take that prayer position. Take a circle with these shoulders. Relax those shoulder blades down. Keeping those headlights on front, shining on that wall in front of you. We're just going to breathe out as we move away from center. Breathe in to return. Good. So we're just, again, taking this nice and easy, gently increasing that range, if at all, not forcing this movement. Remember that flow. As soon as we start to try and force, we start to get tension in those movements. So we're looking for grace and flow today. All that work being done underneath the surface. Good. And then we're going to bring it down. Lovely. Okay, my friends, we're going to take a nice big arm circle. So we're leading with that thumb. We're going to breathe in. And we're going to breathe out. Now, if we've got any limited movement in the shoulders, we're just going to make that circle wider, maybe a bit smaller. Okay, and again, we're breathing in. And we're breathing out. Let's move sides. So we're just breathing in, finding your circle. Breathing out. Good. So let's think about that centering. Let's think about that belt-like muscle, that corset. We're trying to make sure that we're engaging with it all the way through. So as this arm rises, you might notice you need to engage a little bit more to avoid doing this to help the action. So we're holding this position all the time. It's a definition of core stability. Pilates is holding that trunk position stable while we challenge those core muscles with the arm and leg movement. So we're going to think about tightening that belt, not all the way to notch 10. Remember, about 30% of your maximum, notch 3. Now let's see if we can practice our roll down. We're going to start nice and small. If you need to bend those knees because you've got problems with that lower back, that will help protect it. Imagine when you're forming this neutral spine that you've got a long tail that's just hanging down to the floor. It's just sat behind your heels. We're going to drop this chin to the chest and then tightening that belt, we're going to lift this chest over our imaginary beach ball that we bring with us every session. And we're just lifting that rib cage over that imaginary beach ball as we breathe out. Now we're going to stop at our point. We're going to breathe in, tighten that belt again. Imagine pushing that tail down to the floor first and then stacking each segment of the spine, one on top of the other, till we come back to our original position and the head is that last thing to come up. So we're going to do a few of these, my friends. So really relax those shoulders, tighten that belt, practice just lifting that rib cage. Now, if you want to do this straight legs, you can do it with those bent legs. And we're just listening to the body. When that body says that's enough, we're not reaching further. We're just going to breathe in and tighten that belt. Remember that big long tail. If we can push your tail down into the ground, it helps stabilize this move. It starts the movement all the way back up. Breathing in at the top. Breathing out. Always engaging those core muscles, keeping that belt active. Notch 3, notch 4. Some of you might find this is a notch 5. Okay, you might be trying a little bit too hard if it's 5, but that's okay. Just get used to it. And I'm going to take one more now. One more all the way down. Well, down as far as I feel comfortable. And then all the way back up. Good. So at this point, at your last point, shoulders should be relaxed. If I came round, I should be able to just push those hands. Head totally relaxed. You're almost looking through those thighs, the gap in those thighs. And it's just the glutes, the back muscles, and these abdominal muscles that are bringing you back up. Not the head, not the neck, not the shoulders. Good. And then we're just going to roll those shoulders a little bit and just circle those ankles a little bit if you like. Good. So that's our warm-up. We're going to finish the warm-up with a little bit of standing core stability. So we did a little bit of it with this heel raise. What we're going to try and do is balance. Now, level 1 will literally be just lifting your heel off the floor, and that'll be as far as you go. So if that's as far as you want to do, stay there, but stay safe. So we're going to see if we can imagine we put that spirit level across our hip bones. We're going to tighten the belt, and all we're going to do is slowly lift one foot off the floor. Okay, we're looking out into the distance, long spine, breathing out, breathing in, bringing it down. We're going to do the same on the other side. Good. So just pushing that supporting leg down into the floor, standing on one leg. We're breathing in, breathing out. Remember our spirit level. Cross those hips. That red dot is in the middle. Cup of tea balancing on your head. And we're going to bring it down. Lovely. So we're going to bring ourselves down into a kneeling position onto our mat. Now, some of you might like to use the roll down. Some of you might like to come into that kneeling position as best as you like. So I'm going to move our camera so you can see a little bit more. And let's do it. So I've been gardening this weekend. And and we're left with the resultant stiffness. So there'll be quite a lot of flexibility as well as strength today. So we're in our kneeling position. Tilt before we do anything else. So remember our tail. Remember our tail. We're going to just tilt that pelvis, push that tail between our legs, and we're going to release. It's not a full cat stretch yet. I want us to focus on drawing those shoulders away from the ears, looking at that invisible line at the top of the fingertips, and just drawing that chin to the back of the neck, drawing those shoulders away from the ears. I know I said that. So we're breathing out as we tilt, breathing in as we push that tail behind us. And then when we're ready, now we're going to draw that spine to the ceiling at the same time. Look towards your knees. As you breathe out, come back to that neutral spine position. Breathe out. And we're going to breathe in. Good. We're going to breathe out. And we're going to breathe in. And we're going to do that one more time. And then we're just going to sit back however you feel comfortable. If this isn't comfortable, find a rest position that you do feel comfortable. And we're going to take almost a child's pose. We're going to tuck these elbows behind the knees. Going to take a breath out, and then I'm just going to slide those hands forwards gently and just gently straight. Lovely, lovely. Let's see, shall we, if we can come down into this prone position. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit of back warm up, and then I'm going to move us onto our sides and then onto our back. Our glutes, so engage your glutes. Lift that chest as we breathe out. Relax those shoulders and in. Good. So there's a little bit of support from those forearms, but we're trying not to push down them today. We're just using these back muscles so you can feel the bottom engaging, the lower back engaging. Good. We're going to take one more of these, and then we're going to release. And in that nice, comfortable position, we're going to relax the bottom, just let it go. And now we're going to just take, I used to call this the Swan Squeeze. So we're just going to squeeze the shoulder blades together. Lift the forearms, lift the palms away from the floor, and slowly lower. So we're breathing out. And that head is down. Good. And again. Keep those abdominals engaged. So draw that tummy button. Remember, it's 30% to that maximum.